Hello and welcome to the Inishguar, the Cities ABC series. We are a fast-growing YouTube podcast thought leadership channel focused on profiling the global leading inspiring people, CEOs, authors, technologists, academics, and the global experts changing and creating solutions to our world. We highlight ideas, products, inventions, software, books, and companies and solutions to the multiple challenges and opportunities we face in our cities and nations with the advent of the so-called Society 5.0, digital transformation, fourth industrial revolution, and all the emerging technologies, especially AI, blockchain, fintech, and IoT. This podcast series are produced and distributed on citiesabc.com and openbusinesscouncil.org and syndicated on the platforms Intelligent HQ, fashionabc.org, HedgeThink, and Traders DNA. This series are part of a large ecosystem of media that is part of the Studium Group and has been focused in creating solutions for cities and citizens. So today we have with us Alessandro Zamboni, that is the founder and CEO of Supply@Me Capital. And it's quite a revolutionary company. And I'm quite excited to interview Alessandro, that has a fantastic corporate background and as well as been working in a lot of areas, monetization and relating to the areas of supply chain, which with COVID-19 is more important than ever. So a bit about Supply@Me. So Supply@Me Capital PLC operates as a fintech company. The company offers inventory monetization services to companies, as well as its alternative fintech platform focused on inventory monetization, which offers a range of manufacturing and trading business the means to release capital against the value of inventory. So this is actually a very big thing right now with everything happening in the world, where we have news around especially for instance, around, if you look just as the tourism industry is probably around 5 to 10% of the world economy that is right now going through a lot of challenges. And of course, all the different areas. So Alessandro, you are joining us from Italy, from Milan, one of the capitals actually of fashion and supply chain in some areas in the world, and as well financial capital. So welcome to our series. It's a pleasure to have you here.
A pleasure, thank you.
So Alessandro, I think especially, I normally go to the bios and background of the person, and of course with you is even more important, bearing in mind everything you've been doing and achieving. You have a huge background, both building a lot of things related with being the founder of this company, but as well in a previous background that includes quite significant benchmarks from co-founder of multiple companies and board advisor. As well, you've been the founder of the Avant-Garde Group, and as well have been in consulting and in a lot of different areas, and you've been working as well in brands like L'Oreal. So I want to a bit that background, being based in Italy, which is one of the top 10 economies in the world, but as well going through a lot of challenges on these areas. A bit of that background, what made the Alessandro that we have here, and that background from education, from family, and even culture.
Sure, thank you. My background is focused on a strong competence in regulatory risk management and all internal control system around in banking industries and insurance industry. So I started my first job, my first work on the advisory. So I worked in several projects for European banks, European insurance firms, in relation in particular to the risk management and regulatory projects. So my team and me know very well the pros and cons of banking regulation, Basel IV, Solvency II, and all the drawbacks, constraints that right now this regulation impact has and have in relation to the opportunity for a bank to develop new products. By the other hand, also thanks to the Avant-Garde Group experience, background and history, in Milan, we founded two very important groups. One is Vivo Lab, is a group of Bocconi University, and is a group where focused on study and exploring high impact technologies. So we study exploring Internet of Things technology, cloud technology, microservices, APIs, technologies that we know that in open banking paradigm is very important. Also DLT, blockchain. So my team and me have the opportunity, to study also the technology and the legal fit of this technology in relation to financial services in particular. The mix of these activities created SupplyMe.
I'm particularly, well, first of all, congratulations, because you guys listed in March with a valuation of 227 million pounds, which is quite impressive. Bearing in mind, we have in 2020, that is a completely crazy year in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of opportunities coming there. So can you tell us about this listing? And as an Italian fintech company listing in UK, what was the goal? And as well, how do you do that from the capital market?
The goal was, since our initiative is not Italian or domestic based, is a scalable initiative. We study at the start of the initiative, at the beginning of the initiative, a solution, a service that basically had to be scalable, because the market is untapped, not only in Italy. Is correct. Italian economy is one of the most important economy, but UK economy, US, Middle East, the other European countries are a very important opportunity, because briefly, what we saw is that in 2014, all the initiative in the market, bank and fintech, were focused on trade receivables. And right now, you know that in a cash-to-cash cycle, the trade receivables has a very a less important part, but the most important part are focused on inventory or the payables. So looking this data, not only for Italy, but for all the Europe, firstly, and then US and Middle East, we decided to develop the platform starting from the House of Fintech and also the House of Financial Services that was London. So since our platform is put together companies that need monetization and funders that right now understood our platform and recognize that our platform is a new asset class in the perspective of an asset manager, because the underlying is the marketability of inventory and on trade receivables, leasing, or other similar credit exposures. We thought that London could be the right place to have an holding company listed on the UK main market, in order to have a very important visibility on audience in the market in relation to this new fintech, innovative, unique platform, and has several geographies. For each geography, so for each market, to establish a subsidiary in order to deliver our inventory monetization services through a subsidiary for each geography. For us, London is I confirm that I think that it was the right way to start our initiative. London is our hub.
No, completely, and it makes sense even with Brexit, because
yes.
That London is still a capital, especially London as a global capital. Actually, it's still probably the top most powerful city in the world. So can you right now, from a practical perspective, because you mentioned top level, so there's a lot of crowdfunding companies, there's a lot of websites where actually investors can match companies. What is the specifically specially part that SupplyMe, and you touched some of these areas? I would like to understand, let's say for a company listening to us or as an investor, how does it work? So it's very important to keep it simple in that way.
Yeah. It's very simple. Typically a client company need cash in order to manage their working capital needs. So you know that when a company should be a manufacturing or trading company, has a so-named cash-to-cash cycle. So they start to buy from suppliers goods, they transform or produced goods, and they sell goods to the end customers. This elapsed time need to be supported from equity and debt. Right now in the market, all the players, as I'm saying, are supporting the trade receivable. So the last phase of the process. You know, I'm a company, I purchase goods, there are payables, I keep the goods in my warehouse, the days inventory held, and I sell the inventory to the end customer. And accordingly, I generate trade receivables. All the marketplace, all the players are focused on the fintech platform in particular, are focused on trade receivables. So the end phase of this process. Few players are focused on inventory through asset-based lending mode. And we study an initiative that briefly allow a business owner, once he has inventory on his warehouse, to sell the inventory to our platform to get cash. That is not that, because the monetization is a true sale. So they charge the inventory to our platform. They achieve cash, and the business owner can continue to sell this inventory, the same inventory, to the end customer. When the business owner sells the inventory to the end customer, has to buy back the inventory from the platform, pay this buyback invoice, and pay this invoice selling new inventory to our platform. It's a rolling mechanism. So in briefly, also in simple way, if you are a wine producer and you need 7-8 months in order to dispose all your inventory to the end customers through e-commerce, through physical sales, these 7 to 9 months typically are not financed from banks, because it's too risky. There are not processes in order to monitor the inventory and so on. And our service allow this wine producer to sell the inventory at day one to us, to keep the inventory with cash for 7-9 months, and to sell the inventory to the end customer. Is a very powerful solution, in briefly, for a business owner to provide cash and keep and continue as usual to manage his business process.
What kind of technologies are you using to get this monetization in terms of the supply chain? Because it's very difficult. For instance, one of the things I've been studying, even in some of the things and some governments that I've been working with, is the difficulty to understand. For instance, if you go to a business with Bangladesh or with an emerging market, it's very difficult to find these things. And even in Europe, you might have, let's say, 1 month where the supply chain is, or the inventory is good quality, but then in 2 months it might not be. So how do you look at these things? Are you using blockchain technology? Are you using these things? So how do you look at these different things?
Yes, we use our platform. We use several technologies in order to allow to achieve our business goal. That is to be the first and the best fintech in the market that could assess and monitor the inventory during the life cycle of the contract. Typically is a contract of 3 years, so are not window dressing transaction or other transaction that for companies that only need to manage better financial reporting. Not, we work with companies that understand that our services could support them in order to reshape the end-to-end condition across the supply chain. Saying that, we use technology at day one in order to assess the inventory, also through statistical methodology, and in particular, we use engine and statistical algorithmics that allow to assess the risk, the commercial risk of a company, that is different to a default risk that typically a bank assess through its methodologies. Secondly, since our platform manages a digital purchase of inventory, because the inventory remain in the warehouse of the client company, we use a distributed ledger technology in order to create digital certificate that allow the platform to be the owner of the inventory, also in case of in the case of need of the enforcement of contract, and also because the platform need in case in the worst case to resell the inventory to third parties. So the platform is the reason, is also the importance of our background, that is legal and technology, allow legally to create a digital certificate, and we use blockchain in order to write in a database that you know is a distributed database all the information that has a legal power, legal value, in order to avoid any legal risk during the life cycle of the contract or during the end, the last phase of the contract. Third point, very important, is the tracking of the inventory. And in this case, we use a mix of technologies that are typically regulatory technology in relation to audit, offside auditing systems. And we are using also through pilot internal think system, sensoristics in particular, in the case where we assess a higher fraud risk vis-a-vis our client company. You know that we are not fan or enthusiastic of the technology in general. We use technologies if are helpful for our service model, and the investors agree with us that the two very important point is how we assess the inventory and how we monitor the inventory.
And well, congratulations, because it's quite innovative to say less. And actually, I think every country should be using these technologies, or every organizations. But I think we'll get there probably with I think there's a big even opportunity for you to white label some of these solutions. So one thing, and I know that one of your expertise is the regulatory part. So how do you manage the regulatory part between the different countries? Because it's a big challenge, especially right now with Europe becoming more fragmented, and with the COVID, and especially right now with the Brexit as well, because you are based in the UK. I know that at the moment there's a bit of the next couple of months, hopefully no one knows what is going to happen. And I don't want to go through the politics, but just from the smart contract, how do you process this information, of the regulatory information, and the different areas that we get into the smart contracts?
Sure. We studied very well the opportunity to have a platform that actually is scalable across the regulation and regulatory framework of each geography. The reason is that firstly, client companies are to be compliant to IFRS standards that are across an overall regulation. The IFRS 15 in particular, that is the revenues recognition, is the most important accounting regulation. And in Italy, in UK, in US, in several countries, the IFRS and the US GAAP are two standards that are similar, and in particular are scalable in application. Secondly, is the securitization regulation. And you know that it's possible to use a special purpose vehicle in a specific country that could buy assets from other countries. So there is an opportunity to be efficient also seeing the securitization perspective. In the worst case that for UK, Brexit allow us or ask us to have a UK special purpose vehicle, we already studied the solution in order to have a segregated special purpose vehicle for UK market without particular expenses or cost. The monetization framework is the third angle of our regulation. Typically through UK we could scale the framework also in other countries. For instance, Middle East is a UK common law in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai region. Italy, the Italian framework is more complex than the other geographies. So thanks to by UK we scale to Middle East and US. And the Italian framework, the legal framework, is very complex. And so we are finding a very easy way to adapt our framework that is at the beginning more complex than other geographies. So in briefly, we estimate that for each countries, we need 2 weeks in order to adapt our regulatory and legal framework.
With everything happening in the world supply chain, especially with COVID-19, there's been a big challenge that, especially for us, we still don't have a kind of control over solutions for COVID-19, from masks to a lot of other basic stuff. But you guys are much more ahead, especially in your ecosystem. So what would be the experience that you have, especially in the last almost 10 months or 6 months that you've been working, especially as a public company, and during the COVID-19, that you could actually get as an example for everyone listening to us?
Sure. We see this opportunity. In particular, we think that firstly, our typical client companies was a mid-cap client company, no micro business, because we need to be integrated with the company in order to monitor and track the inventories, but was mid-cap, and in particular because the large corporate companies worked with banks. And during this period, from March, but right now also in the month that we are managing, we see a reshape of the portfolio, because we obviously continue to manage the mid cap or upper small medium enterprise business, but also large corporates that have a CFO that understood that the banking system will be for a new credit crunch, a new problem in relation to the regulation, the banking Basel IV regulation. And accordingly, the CFO is asking us, CFO of a large corporate, to try to set and to use our inventory monetization service not only for his company, but also in order to foster our service alongside across the supply chain. For instance, for the suppliers. Is the reason because we announced it in the last of September an RNS where we highlight the importance of our service, not only vis-a-vis a anchor company, a client company, but across the supply chain. You know that COVID asked to the suppliers, the anchor company, to invert the just-in-time methodology theories to create, to build inventories in order to reduce the business continuity risk of the whole supply chain. The result is that suppliers or anchor company are going to buy inventories in order to reduce this resiliency risk, the business continuity risk. And accordingly, banks, by the other hand, can support them, can support all the client companies. The banking regulation asks banks to be prudent to reduce the leverage ratio. And the result is to have a market that for us will be not only mid-cap or upper small medium enterprise, but also large corporate, in a view of a end-to-end supply chain. I give you an example. We are studying for Middle East an innovative service model. You know, the Middle East right now has problem. Dubai, Abu Dhabi are a problem in relation to their economy. But one of the pillars are the infrastructure area, where governative companies buy infrastructure and rent infrastructure vis-a-vis companies. We are working alongside this infrastructure in order to create a prepackaged solution, a bundle of service that allow these companies, governative company, to foster their own services integrated with the monetization. So a warehouse renting will be fostered with a monetization service in order to manage and to foster a new prepackaged solution for the local domestic economies. Is another way to integrate our service that, as you are saying, has a clear mission to support the real economy. In this way, the government, as my example, has to look us, because we are another way to support the economy, to the risk specific companies, also in relation to the relationship that has that have with the banking system, and so to inject capital, and briefly using private funds through a securitization supporting the client company.
Are you trying to do anything in the context of the entire Europe? Because this would be a great thing to take on a European, even international level, because especially the knowledge you have between supply chain, technology, regulatory part, it's key for the economy. And I think, to be honest, only the companies that have this kind of knowledge will survive. But unfortunately, our governments are still struggling to even look at the basics. So are you doing anything on that direction? Because that, I think, listening to you, I think definitely, and I hope this interview can open doors for them of these things, and there are other contexts I will push. But this is critical. Yeah.
Sure. We are working in Italy, in UK, in Middle East, as an example that I'm saying, and we are studying with a very important bank, a global bank, to create a rollout, to manage a rollout of our service in other European geographies, European countries. Also gaining traction to our scalable service. So the response is yes. We think that we have to work with alongside closely with governments, and we are seeing governments that are very interested to understand our service, because understood that is a new way to inject equity capital supporting a company. Is not that. And the governments that understood this point are supporting us in order to assess the opportunity to support real economy. Italy, Middle East are an example, and we hope also UK, because we are keen to support UK companies, and we are ready to support UK companies. And so our strategic view is to also work alongside governments.
Listen to you, it's really massive, the importance of that, because I think if we look at the solutions, and especially I think part of the success of Amazon and Google and Apple is that they have all this supply chain digitized, so they can actually push in one direction or the other. So the problem with the real global economy is that we have all these millions of companies, but nothing is digitalized. The government department is not talking with the government B, and of course gets the chaos that we are right now. So on a more positive level, so from your experience, and I think probably listening to us, a lot of people are right now struggling, especially people in retail and the industry more suffering from the COVID-19. Any positive things that you have, and as well any areas where people can contact you and enjoy some of the things you're doing, because I think that's fantastic things you're doing right there.
So we hired recently a new UK head of business operations. That is a former of Demica. Demica is another interesting fintech platform focused on other products. And the reason because we hired Stefano Cavalleri is the name, is because we would like to introduce a link in London based, so is UK based, in order to start the support for UK companies. So we are ready. We have the website, the link of a website in case of a company would like to contact directly us. A company could also contact directly Mr. Stefano Cavalleri, and the market know that we respond sooner, also from investor perspective or client perspective. And the very important message is that actually we are ready to support a company. In 1 month, we can provide funds through inventory monetization for a company that has problem in its inventories. They are problem on revenues, but we can monetize the inventory without seeing the problem of the revenues, because our capabilities is to assess the marketability of inventories and also to weigh the company when they charge these inventories. Is the opposite of a trade receivable business, where banks or fintech want to understand the duration of trade receivables and also enforce the contract if there is a delay in the collection of the trade receivables. our model is the opposite. We study a company. We know that after coronavirus, they need no more 7 months, but 1 year in order to dispose all the inventory. No problem. We fix this KPI in the contract, and we wait the company that can get cash and keep calm and continue this its business without problems or any risk on contract enforcement.
How do you bridge the inventory, the technology, the banking partners, and as well the smart contract part of the blockchain technology to get this all working? Because I think this, are you thinking about using an API or an open API where you can actually extract data? Because this could be very interesting to take to countries and to apply this to the national economy, especially for some sectors.
Sure. Right now, we have several partners that rely to our platform because assess our platform and assess also the resiliency of data written in a distributed technology ledger that are the legal data helpful in order to manage all the business contract around the platform. You know also that in RNS of 21 September, we announced also the My Holding is buying with an equity fund a banking license. So we also have nearly in the near future a captive bank that is fully integrated to our platform in order to have a seamless experience in the funding, as we are saying, through APIs or through other reliance processes. And but in the perspective of client companies, we could use the APIs in order also to monitor the company, because you know the framework of the monitoring are based on 3 ways. One is the logical data through the platform, the DLT. The second one are the offsite, the environment data, IoT. The third one are the banking data through APIs, so the open banking APIs frameworks. So this is all the opportunity to scale the business, to offer to the company further service. I announced recently that Supplemi is also working in order to foster and to generate revenues from insurance, because we assess a company, we ask to improve the insurance coverage of its risk. So the APIs and other technology will allow us also to improve new revenue streams. But it's correct, with partners, we integrate in a seamless funding experience our platform to their processes. And the captive bank is the reason, because we prefer to use a captive partner in addition to the existing partner in order to improve more and more funding.
So Alessandro, I want to thank you for your time. We're going to put all the links about this and the information where people can find this. And I think with these times, this is quite interesting. And I'm sure that especially a lot of countries and other people will be looking forward to understand more, especially the way you use the technology, and especially this area of the open APIs and this data integration or gapping. It's really very powerful and actually quite unique. So I want to congratulate you and thank you for having the time to make this. Thank you.
Thank you.